Hey guys, what's up? Today's gonna be a lesson on biscuit making. First thing you're gonna need is your dry ingredients. You're gonna need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You're gonna need a pinch of salt. You're gonna need 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour and some like a stick of butter chopped up. And you're gonna need 2 cups of milk for our wet ingredients. For your tools, you're gonna need a glass if you don't have a biscuit cutter, or you can use a biscuit cutter. You can use a whisk and some sort of spoon and 2 knives. So let's get started. Okay, you guys, first thing you need to do is combine your dry ingredients. So you take your 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, you take your salt, and you take your whisk and you combine that. Once you get that in there, you'll put your butter in. The butter is going to help it with some flavor. And also, it's going to help give it it's going to give it a buttery taste. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the butter and chop it in here. Cut it into the flour. And once you get it into small pieces, that's when you're gonna start to use your hands and you're gonna kind of mash it into the flour. All right, and you guys, I like to add a little bit of sugar. I like to add a little bit of sugar into my biscuits. So I'm gonna just add a little bit of sugar. Bear with me for a second. And we'll take a little bit of sugar. I usually add like a tablespoon. You don't want the biscuit to be crazy sweet, but I find that adding a little bit of sugar adds a little bit of flavor that I want. Okay, once you get your butter kind of small, you take your fingers and put it in there and mash up the butter. You don't want the butter to completely dissolve. You just want to press it into the flour. And you want to kind of spread it as much as you can all around the flour. You want each bit of flour to have as much butter as possible in there. And I forgot to mention, you want all your ingredients to be cold. So I usually keep some flour in the refrigerator. And the butter usually is in the refrigerator. And of course the milk's always cold. Okay, I got my hands a little floury, but that's okay because I'm gonna need it when I roll the dough out. Okay, now we're gonna make a well in the middle of the flour. Once we make our well in the middle of the flour, we're gonna pour our milk in there. We won't pour it all in there, just pour a little bit in there. And we're gonna go around the edge of the bowl and gradually mix in and create a soft dough. Just go around the edges. And it's a little drier than I'd like, so I'm gonna pour some more milk in there, the rest of it. And I'm gonna keep working it until I get the dough the way I want it. Okay, and for me, that's not enough milk. It's not as soft as I like the dough because we're gonna work the dough. And so when we work it, it's gonna get drier. So we want to have a little bit of moisture in it. So we'll add a little bit more milk. maybe about a 1/4 of a cup more. And then I'm gonna add another 1/4 of a cup, so another 1/2 a cup total. Okay, now I'm gonna add a little bit more. So we'll say 3/4 of a cup extra. And now it's a little wet, and that's the way I like it. Okay. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flour our cutting board here. Just so the dough won't get stuck. There we go. I'm gonna spread that around a little bit. I'm gonna put our dough onto the cutting board. And we're gonna put a little bit of flour on top of that so we can work with it so it won't stick to our hands. There we go. And now we'll flour our hands and we'll roll it. And since it's a little wet, the dough, we're gonna need a lot of flour. But it's important that the dough's not too dry. Because if the dough gets dry, then our biscuits will be dry. The more we work it with the flour, the more together the dough will be, and it'll come to how we want it. Okay, we just fold it and press it a couple times, just mixing the dough better. Okay, and that's about how we want it. So now we're gonna get it to about the size of the biscuit that we want. And we'll begin cutting out the biscuits. Now, okay, I have a pan here that has butter on the bottom. You can use non-stick spray. Butter will have a tendency to burn at high temperatures because I've preheated my oven to 450. And you're gonna need to preheat your oven to 450, 475. So it's up to you whether you want to use butter or not. Butter will give it a flavor on the bottom, nice flavor, and it'll cause it to brown on the bottom. And then plus my pan's kind of old and it's dark, so it's gonna brown nicely on the bottom anyway, so I'm gonna cook it closer to the top rack. But now I'm gonna cut my biscuits out and begin to place them on my cooking tray. Alright, you're gonna need to flour the rim of the glass, or if you have a biscuit cutter, you're gonna need to flour that. Okay, and begin cutting out your biscuits. And place them on your sheet. You see, if you keep everything nicely floured, everything will move properly. If not, it'll get stuck. Or it won't cut. It'll get stuck to the glass. I'm giving each biscuit a little space so I can brown and cook around the edges. If you'd like to, you can push the biscuits together and let them rise up on each other. And that way you'll know your biscuits will be soft around the outside. But me, I'd rather do it this way so it'll cook around the edges. You want to use flour, but you don't want to over flour, because I don't like a whole lot of flour on my biscuits, because then it'll take away from the finishing flavor. It'll taste kind of floury, even though at the end we're gonna butter the outside of the biscuit. Alright, I took my excess flour that I had after I cut to make a little bit more dough so I can have some more biscuits. Trying to get the most out of this flour as I can. There we go. Got a little more round right there. And take the last little bit, put it together. Trying to get the most bang out of my buck, if that makes sense. Okay, now my biscuits are ready to go in the oven. Now my biscuits are ready to go in the oven. I'm going to cook them as long as necessary until they get the way I want them to be. I usually start off like 8 to 10 minutes, and I'll check it to make sure it's brown. Usually once the bottom is brown, it's good to go, but if the top's browning faster than the bottom, then you don't want that. You want to kind of brown evenly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it at the top of the oven. Since my pan is dark, if your pan is light, then the bottom of your biscuits will cook slower. So you have to monitor that. Okay, so we're going in the oven. And I'm gonna let them cook, and I'll show you the end result. Alright, y'all, so this is the end result. My biscuits, I cooked them for about 12 minutes. And it'd be a good idea, if you know your oven, to spin them around at some point, maybe halfway through. The back of my oven cooks is hotter than the front. So if I would have turned them at some point, then they would have browned. These browned because they were in the back. So these would have browned a little better. Also, I have melted some butter, and you want to finish your biscuits off with a little butter over the top to give them that nice flavor, and they'll also give them a nice look. And if you have a little bit of flour on the outside, we can get that taken care of. And that's pretty much how you make a buttermilk biscuit, my friends. And this is my first video, and I will continue to post. I'm just trying this YouTube thing out, new to it. I'm always on YouTube watching people, so I figure it's only right for me to start doing it myself. And hopefully I can build a community. And there you have it, buttermilk biscuits. I'm gonna try one. Let me try this big one here. There you go, you see the inside. Oh yeah, that's good right there. try the recipe. Tell me what you think. Until next time. What?